welcome. It is, we're honored you're here. It's a real pleasure you're here. So some of you may be asking yourself, how did I get here? And many of you may be asking yourself, I wish I would have read those emails from Jennifer so I know what's going on and what I said yes to. I want to set a little bit of context real quick. My name is David Price. I'm with Preston Warner Ventures, general partner there. And I'm a part of the hosting team, but our real host is a gentleman named Tom, who happens to have last name Tom Preston Warner. Tom, thank you for creating this beautiful space. So a part of why we're here is because Tom and his wife Teresa, a little bit of Field of Dreams, we're just like, what if we created an amazing event space? They part of our open to our team to gather and host events here, and one of the results was like we do an event every day of the week, but we had an opportunity to fill with people like you. So Tom, thank you for being a part of the story. Another part of the story is, and I tell you this for context for what you're getting invited into, is just relationship. So a couple of gentlemen you'll meet here, I've known for a long time. We're older now.
Probably too long.
But Ron Ivy, I got to know Jonathan, and it's been over a year now where we got together and just started having discussions about things relative to the work we're doing, the different fields we're doing, where we found ourselves in the world. And there were two main questions that keep coming up, and we were trying to figure out what we were trying to talk about, and it kind of synthesized around two different things. So one was around technology, but really about technology progress. And what is the technology progress we need right now? What are the circumstances necessary to have the technology progress we need, right? Like, what are the structures around that? Because technology on its own is just a thing, but technology within a system, having structures around it, you can do a lot with that. And another question we kept circling back to, and we kind of synthesize it now, was like, what does human flourishing look like? What's starting with virtue ethics? Nobody really wants to talk about virtue ethics. And like, as soon as I said that, only people like Brian Greene from Santa Clara University knew what I was talking about. So anyway, human flourishing became a thing we could talk about. And we started having questions around like, what does human flourishing look like? How can we all think we know what it feels like, but yet no one can describe the thing without like writing a thesis and PhD? And sorry, academics, I know you're here. We want you here. Those papers are long. Man. What is flourishing? Human flourishing. And so those became the boundary questions and conversations we were having and doing our work. And really, there's one question and a discussion we continue to have. You're all invited into today. So first thing is, this is all about relationships. So welcome to the family. Look at it, family got big. I know. And secondly, invited into having a discussion on the question, why not both? So how can you optimize for the technology progress and human flourishing at the same time? What do those boundary conditions look like? What does that system look like? What does that structure look like? And I wear hats as an investor. I wear hats as an entrepreneur. And I would really like to know the answers to those questions. So we've invited you all here to help me and others figure those things out together. Because I don't know the answers. So, and also I hope we have a whole lot of fun. So those are the three things and things you've been invited into. And now I've already talked too long. I want to hand things off to our MC today, one of Jennifer, who you all know. What you really need to know is Jennifer's one of my favorite people, and she helps us in a lot of ways, but she's an advisor, she's an entrepreneur herself, which means she does a little bit of everything. She has a really long CV, but Jennifer, we're in good hands with you today. So I think this is where I was handing it off to you.
Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. And you guys get my drink down here.
What's that?
All right. My drink is
I
here.
did bring your drink down there.
Thank you so much.
It's kind of hot, right? It's like we're lucky because it's cooler today, but all right. I am so excited to be here.
Mic's not on.
Mic's not on?
But you look
But
great.
I'm pretty loud, right? That's working? We'll just talk like this. All right. I'll give it to you then.
Do we even need the mics?
No.
I mean,
I don't see why
we probably do for later on. Okay, so first of all, thank you, David. I would love to introduce Ron. So I just started working with Ron actually at the end of August, and I have to say, y'all, like, good human, first and foremost. So I'll tell you all the shiny things about his CV, but like really, really good people. He's managing director of Humanity 2.0 Institute and a research fellow at Harvard's Human Flourishing Program, which is co-hosting with Preston Warner Ventures today. And he co-leads with Jonathan the HumanConnections.AI project. So yes, it's a big event, but obviously there's like important research and reporting and hopefully like distilling insights and actionable kind of outcomes from today. And I'm sure they're going to talk a little bit more about that. And then also Jonathan. Jonathan is a visiting researcher at Harvard's Human Flourishing Program and CEO of FilterLabs.ai, which I hope he tells us a little bit more about as well. And he's been at the forefront of machine learning and its intersection with social life for over a decade. So this is your panel. I mean,
No,
and
you're in charge now.
I'm in charge?
You're our moderator.
Oh, okay. Wait, it is on.
Oh, but it's not on.
Okay. All right, so Ron, how did we get here? What is the purpose today? Like,
Yeah,
what's
so
happening?
David gave a bit of context on kind of the broader conversation around tech and flourishing, which is kind of nested inside of. But there became kind of a very practical and concrete problem to work on within that bigger question. Jonathan and I were working on this issue of loneliness and social connection, which we'll talk about in our slides here. This is the only slide deck we're using, but we wanted to make sure we're all kind of on the same page. It's a very complex conversation we're having today. And we're having a conversation between different sectors and different disciplines, so that's always tricky to navigate that. But the concrete challenge we were looking at for us in our work has been on why are we getting lonelier? Why are we less socially connected? Why do we seem to be our social capabilities are degrading? And some of you have been a part of those conversations over the last few years in the research. We see some partners out here in the audience. And in the midst of that, technology has been part of that conversation. So we're going to talk through that as well. But specifically AI and the use of AI either as a solution, some people are framing it that way, or as its potential impacts on social connection. But we're not just talking about loneliness and social connection, we're really talking about social life on a broader level. We're not just talking about an individual and an AI or an individual's feelings. We're talking about what's the quality of our life together in community and at a national level. So that's the project that we're working on, is trying to understand what is that potential impact, both positive and negative, on social life in terms of AI. Jonathan, you want to talk a little about the program?
Well, let's go to the next slide. So I guess it falls to me as the academic who writes long papers that David doesn't want to read at the Human Flourishing Program. Just a little bit.
I have AI though now. It synthesizes into
That is nice. Yeah, that is helpful.
That's, for those of us who spend hours doing it, I guess we're happy about that. So at the Human Flourishing Program, it's a program at Harvard University embedded within the Institute for Quantitative Social Science. Its mission is to study and promote human flourishing across cultures and disciplines. We bring together an interdisciplinary mix. There's a few of our colleagues here who can speak to some of the more empirical side on it. But really, kind of the flagship project that we have is a global flourishing study that, following over 200,000 people across 22 countries, globally representative for a 5-year study, trying to understand what are the drivers, and what's just like the situation globally around human flourishing understood more holistically. And we kind of like, the working definition of this that we have is flourishing is a state in which all aspects of a person's life are good. And to some extent, this is like, we're trying to broaden this out to include more than just like individual well-being, to like the ways like the social relationships, the groups, the communities you're a part of, all these things that make our life really rich and rewarding. How do we understand that? What are driving it? And so those are some of the things that we at the Human Flourishing Program, as so-called research scientists, are attempting to understand and trying to measure as well, which, in today's world, if you don't have measurement, it's hard to really join a lot of conversations.
Next slide. So you want to give you want to explain what that is to some people that don't know what that acronym is? And,
It gave me
I
the
like
TL
yours though.
Yeah.
Gave me the TLDR.
I had the TLDL too long.
Were you
didn't
listening?
listen.
I was listening. I've actually read. I've read things. I may be over-caffeinated right now. That's the only effect. Well, let me read the TLDR. People have warm, trusting relationships and are happier, more purposeful, healthier, and live longer lives. See, that resonates. That's great. In the U.S., the quality of our social capabilities seem to be degrading over the last few decades. We're going to talk more about that today. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know the felt experience, but you guys have the numbers. AI systems can advance this degradation further or help us rebuild our social capabilities, right? Which is a lot of the conversation that we've been having, and we, for this gathering, anchored it a bit more in some topics. Did I do good?
Yeah, you did
Good
great.
job.
Next slide.
Thank you.
Okay, so just a little bit about what we're trying to measure here at Human Flourishing. So there are 6 domains. that we are kind of looking at. And this is kind of our attempt to try to like segment it and understand it more holistically. There's often, within our like research community, there's always debates about how to cut this up and things. But this is where we kind of landed about like 6 main areas: a sense of meaning and purpose in life, close social relationships, character and virtue, happiness and life satisfaction, health, both mental and physical health, and financial and material stability. When all of those are going well, we think we can say there's flourishing going on, both at the individual level, but as a community. And so those are the things that we're trying to measure. And so leave it here to Ron.
Yeah, and just one point too. Can Tim, and is Kate here too? I don't know if Kate's coming.
Kate will join us for
Is
dinner.
Tim Lomas here?
Yeah, there he is.
I know some of you all have asked me about measurement on the tech side. Tim's a great person to talk to, as well as our team, in terms of what are the measures, how do you measure, what are the different tools that you have. So just grab him during lunch or a break. So the next slide is social capabilities. So what we've been doing with some of you all in this room have been part of a working group, cross-discipline, cross-sector working group to look at capabilities and looking at AI and how is it impacting our capabilities. One of the ones we're most interested in is social capabilities, because we know that in the cognitive science data, social science data, that if a person has warm, satisfying connections, trusting relationships, and kind of underneath all that, if they have the ability to develop those relationships, the capacity for empathy, for connection, for intimacy, that's really one of the prime determinants of mental health, physical health, and then the other categories of flourishing that Jonathan mentioned. You all may have seen the video from Julianne Holt-Lundstad, who will be joining us later, one of the leading researchers on this question. And she's found incredible data on the impact on longevity, the impact on all types of health factors in terms of cardiac, cognitive health, etc. For some reason, these things seem to be declining, and we're really concerned about why are they declining, and what's the connection with AI. So that's the next slide.
So I guess it's like, the point of this slide is to show you that things are really bad. And social isolation has increased. So something that's actually started to emerge more clearly in in the last let's say 24 months or so is it's like, so these have been pretty typical indicators of people when they age. And often social isolation, loneliness has been something we've talked about in the older age segments as a phenomenon. And a lot of things like the Ministry of Loneliness, whether that's in the UK or Australia, they have been focusing on interventions with the elderly there. But what's happened is this phenomenon is now true of younger and younger cohorts. Even to today, we're getting the most negative trends are coming out of the youngest, the 18 to 30 segment, which is very, very disconcerting, because those have been the times where people have created the most social connections, which often they're living off of for the rest of their life. Those are the times whether it's at early workplace, internships, universities, whatever those. And if we're starting at such a low basis, we're seeing this kind of, as they age throughout, be much more dramatic over time. And so what we're trying to do, and what we've been doing at the Human Flourishing Program, and many of you have, is to understand how technology is potentially a driver of some of these negative trends, as well. And there's a lot of data to suggest that it has accelerated some of these. But there are those who are coming with ideas to try to decelerate or address some of these, and that's a lot of kind of just the discussion about where we start empirically on it, and there are here many different views of that, and so some of you are trying to build products to intervene, and some of you are doing research to say what you are doing is making the problem worse. And that conversation is what we're hoping to have.
And some of us are giving you money to do that.
Yeah.
And I think the other key point here too is these trends have predated some of the technological trends, and at the same time have been accelerated by some of the technological trends. So the decline in social capability, social life, activities, all kinds of activities, civic life, religious life, family composition, that predates some of the technological trends, but some of the trends he's talking about right now in terms of teens have been most pronounced in the last decade with the rise of the smartphone and social media. So it's not just tech, it has a complex cultural and economic drivers that predate that issue, but we are seeing it increase with this tech issue. So next slide. So really the question of our salon today is how might we design AI systems to improve our social capabilities and ultimately human flourishing. So it's coming at it from a perspective of forward-looking, positive, while not ignoring the negative data that we're seeing and the negative implications that we're recognizing. Next slide.
So this is kind of what we laid out. I think you all kind of have seen this here. We're trying to have a series of conversations around this. We will kind of some of you are going to be moderators for these. And what we're trying to do is have the conversation build on each other. So it's not just don't restart each time. Think about and bring it in. We also want to, this isn't just you and the audience watching people talk about it, interact with us around these things, and you can see that some will be questions that are more conceptual in nature, tech and social life, or the good life, and others will be more practical about how do you build for social connection? What do operators do in that space? What do they need to do? And then, David just quipped, that some people are giving people money to build these things, and what should they be doing? How should they be thinking about it? Can they be taking on some of this in their decisions, and where does it enter in? So those are some of it, and then of course we're going to have drinks and dinner, which is probably the most important thing. So stick with us. You will get a drink and dinner.
And the idea is that this would build into collaboration beyond the event. I mean, we've already seen some of this happen in the last few months between some of you already, both on the tech and research side, identifying new questions to research, what tools to build, what types of funding need to be created in terms of the financing, which we'll get into. So very practical and action-oriented at the end of this. Next slide. So the salon principles, and chime in,
I was not moderating, just to be clear. I just want to take a moment. They clearly had it locked down.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, you might just be a lackluster moderator.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
You're not controlling us.
I think somebody needs to work on empathy.
I didn't put any fingers.
So the principles for today, we're really entering into this continuation of a group of friends talking about this topic. That's how this started. That's how we want to continue. And we all have different perspectives on truth, science, philosophy, religion, experience, practical experience. Bring that perspective. Chatham House rules. Okay, a lot of questions about this particular part of it.
Is this like Fight Club?
Yeah, we got that question.
No idea.
So it's not that you can't share about it online or talk about what you're doing. It's about respecting the confidentiality of the individuals that are speaking. Because of the nature of this conversation, we need a free space, we need a safe space where both sides can share, or the multiple sides that are part of this conversation can share their perspective and not feel like they're getting an attribution to their particular comment. There will be one video panel next with a couple of our colleagues, but the rest will not be videoed. Actively listen and be more curious than certain. I think some of you have done a lot of great work, and you can build some certainty around that, which is important, but be open to other perspectives and really just give each other freedom to share and to be in a dialogue. But don't shy away from controversy or saying something you think is maybe the rest of the group isn't seeing. Feel free to speak up and share your perspective. All right. Any kind of other logistical questions or topics that we need to deal with in terms of the day?
Well, I just think what you said about, so every single person here, like everything is intentionally curated, meaning that you all have very different vantage points. So exactly like you said, do not, like, please speak up, please, poke at things. We encourage all of that. We have folks from, obviously, OpenAI, the shiny, amazing, and also MIT, Harvard. We have the AI lead from the Vatican. We have venture here. We have so many different kind of motivations and vantage points, and it's just really important to connect and see what we can build together. So in that, vein of thought, if you wanted to like high five a person next to you, or like fist pump them, or be like, just to shake it up, maybe. That's right. Okay. This is about human connection. Perfect. See, look how easy that is. Look at us connecting. Oh my goodness.
That's all it takes.
That's all it takes. All right. So I think we should go on.
So yeah, we're gonna.
Okay, so we're gonna change it up a little bit. We're actually gonna bring out Jim Nuttall. We're really excited to have him here. Everybody give a round of applause for Jim. So what's really great, so we're gonna actually lift this up, and he's going to be capturing everything, so that we can really have some assets and some insights in a graphic way. So check out what Jim's doing throughout the day, and we're gonna invite some other folks up. So just give us like 2 minutes.